Why am I even watching this again? I really do not know. Well, I'm not really watching. Well, I am, but I'm not. But why am I even listening to it again? Yeah, there's some the kind of if and buts your distraction with the overheads. You know, just sometimes there's just random sounds just thrown in the overheads, you know, because not everyone's probably clever at listening. But there is quite a lot of sound continuity mistakes. My goodness. Usually it's visual continuity mistakes, but usually, yeah, but the sound with the visual, it is some continuity mistakes. There's too many to even list. If I had to say this scene, that there is inaccurate, or, you know, you wouldn't have sound in that sort of position because, you know, there's no one actually there to actually listen to it, and there's nothing there for really a sound to be reflected back to cause that sound to be there, because, you know, airplanes are up in the sky. Sound would go up a little bit, I would imagine, upward, away from the aircraft, upward sort of thing, but eventually it's going to weaken, it's going to dissipate. But when you hear down on the ground, because the sound's going to reflect down to the ground surface, and depending on what the ground surface is made of, or how the object is sounding in the air itself, and then you think you can pinpoint or locate there's an aircraft, but at first you can't probably see where its location is coming from until you got a visual, or you got radar on it. But then most people in the home haven't got a radar scanner going bleep bleep bleep. Though you could buy some radar stuff, you know, it's not, you know, there's probably old second-hand stuff on eBay. I wouldn't be surprised. You know what I mean? Probably, yeah. Anyway, never mind. It's not applicable. But usually when you hear airplanes and in a town, or an area where there's buildings and whatever, or if they're mountains, you're going to get reflections and such. And then, you know, they don't exactly tell you if an airplane's coming in at that direction. They could be coming in an opposite. It depends on what way you're looking at a mountain or a building, and you've got to think, well, I think it's coming that way, but it's not. But there's a building or some buildings in front of me, and it's most likely it's probably coming from behind me. It's probably way up high. It's coming in closer and closer by the second, and until you got a visual on it. But, you know, at first you think, oh yeah, it's coming, but it's not. It's just getting reflected. But there's a lot of things there that, I don't know, it's just, they sound hokey. It just sounds hokey. It's just like throw some sounds in there randomly just for the sake of it. Otherwise, when it should go from exterior to interior, and depending on how close you are. And you know what bugs me with all these, it's all this Limax that's on the screen at the moment. Oh, and these camera angles where it's like something's really close to the air, you know, camera shots like that I just find, I don't know, my cringe meter is just going off the scale. It's just, why all this flying through the valley of the mountain? You know, it's like some cheap Star Wars from, you know, going over through the Death Star trench. Why don't they just fly above it, you know? Fly above all, you know, instead of going around all these corners just to avoid radar. Crying out loud, they know they're there now, so, you know, what's the limit in that? You know, some of the scenes where, you know, it sounds like you got a bit of sound overhead. I'm just going to play this back from where it starts at chapter. On the output scale, on the output levels, you can see 2 levels on the overheads that are active presently in stereo. But how it sounds, I mean, with a little bit of the music score there, and you know, what is being panned mixed into, and then there, you know, that bit there, you know, all the overheads have been active in use. But mostly channels 27 and 28, they're the middle. They're a little bit more higher level, while the other levels were a little bit low. So frankly, I didn't quite hear them that clearly because it's called audio masking. I would have to monitor this film, rehearse it all the way through, and then sort of think, right, I'm going to have to lower those other levels down, or I'll take the levels up on the other channels and just take them up a little bit until they match or are going to be within a plus or minus 2 dB. It's usually the tolerance, I think. But mostly it's just the middle overhead. Well, depends on how many overheads I use on the system. The other channels, they're not being used at the moment because they're just placed differently in the room because I haven't got identical speakers to stick on the ceiling because they got to be identical, otherwise what's the point? Otherwise normally it would be height 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and they'd all be going through Dolby SA10s and such to expand, so you get pinpoint sound positioning plus the extra output. Yeah, see the sound, you know, the channels on the overhead go down now, and then one channel comes up, then both of them in stereo. It's a terrible sound mix, this movie. It really is, honestly. You know, even when it cuts to the interior of this battleship or whatever the bloody hell it is, you'd thought you'd have some atmospheric sound or, you know, something that might be reflection. So you get sound directly coming elsewhere and you'd have a reflection sound with, you know, like an echo, because it would be echoey in those sort of things. It wouldn't be, you know, designed for comfort. I don't understand that sound in the overhead. It doesn't make sense because a lot of it sounds like it's on the outside of the cockpit rather than on the inside of the cockpit, the interior. It's got a very unsettling sound mix, this has. I don't know why or who. Bloody probably what's the word called at the Oscars? Oh god, it seems fixed at the Oscars. It seems fixed at the AMPAS. It's an overrated movie at that year. It's you know, all that sound there with the bloody aircrafts coming around, whoosh. Some of that just doesn't make sense on the overhead. Maybe that little bit there maybe made a little over sense, maybe a little bit overhead sound sent, but some other bits like why is there no sound? You know, it's on and off all the place. It's a terrible mix. And it's not my opinion, it is a terrible mix. You know, I bet if they had the, I'm just going to mute the sound there a little bit for a sec. I bet if they had the original production sound, if what inside the actual cockpit, it's not going to sound anything like what it is in the movie. It'll be the opposite. It's just making me cringe. Oh, I'll unmute it again. It just makes me cringe. That didn't make bloody sense. When the missiles are dropped, that clonk clonk sound, that clonk clonk with an echo, it wouldn't make that sound. Sorry, it wouldn't make that sound. Where's everything else around it to make that echo sound? It sounds like it was recorded, sound like it was bloody recorded in someone's bloody bathroom and someone's moving something around in the butt and it's making an echo sound. What? It doesn't make sense. Absolutely terrible movie. Why I'm even bothering to play it? Why I'm even bothering to play this little scene in the movie? I don't care to play the screen channel or the surrounds. Just the you know, but this Limax. Oh my goodness! It's just doing my head in. It's like it doesn't look like Limax. It looks like it's going from scope to widescreen. You know, regular widescreen and going back to scope. Oh. You know, the color onto this scene, you know, it's not too bad. Could be improved if they take the filtering off, whatever they're using. But elsewhere in the movie, it's just got some terrible color. You know what that explosion or the way the ground and the way it moved, it reminds me of something like War of the Worlds, where you got the ground kind of going whoom, whoom. It kind of goes down and it comes back, and then you get the tripod coming out the ground. Oh, you know, there's something moving down there, and well, it's not the metro. The metro doesn't go through this way. Oh. And you get little stupid sounds that only last about less than a second or about a second. And you think, bloody hell, what was the point of that? Oh, the flares, the flares, the flares. They're mostly on screen, not on the overheads. I'll tell you what this movie needs. It needs a few TIE fighters flying around. Oh, was that a little bit of flare on the overhead? Oh, he crashed and burned and it didn't look pretty. Mission failed.
Let's not take it for granted. Southwest. They're headed away from us. They don't know we're here. The second those Tomahawks hit the airbase, those bandits are gonna move to defend the target. We have to get there before they do. Increase speed. They're headed away from us. They don't know we're here. The second those Tomahawks hit the airbase, those bandits are gonna move to defend the target. We have to get there before they do. Increase speed. They're headed away from us. They don't know we're here. The second those Tomahawks hit the airbase, those bandits are gonna move to defend the target. We have to get there before they do. Increase speed.
We got you, Mav. Don't wait for me.
Sir, Tigers 2 and 4 are behind schedule. Time to target 1 minute 20.
Little occasional left center, right center used.
Heads up, Phoenix.
Sir, bandits are 2 minutes from target. Daggers are 1.
See, I need ejection seat in this home cinema. I need an ejection seat, you know, to pull the or what was it up there? And then yeah, you'll be wearing the ceiling overhead. Yeah, there's the experience. Oh dear, ejector seat, really. So I know I'll go on eBay and look for some oxygen masks, helmets. Put the helmets on and the oxygen. Oh dear. Oh. There's I think there's some infrasonics or some lows that are going pretty low down on the overheads. I think I'm gonna have to put another sub into the system, and it's got to go through. Well, it's pretty cool. Well, I've got 6 out. Well, for the overheads, 6. But if I use the what do you call it? If I had to use the other channel, so that'd be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. That'd be 10 raw channels, but they go into a decoders, so you get more channels. I think there's a, hang on, is there a cheap way to get around it instead of using loads of Behringer DCXs? Because it wouldn't be logical that way, because it'd just be too costly. Because it only needs to divert, so I would have to have something else connected onto the XLR outputs, something simple that would be just a plus and ground, a ground and plus, because I would think of taking the signal into a very small, although I could, if I want to, I could do it into I could do it into an XLR input on a little mixer. Just trying to think how many channels, because got all those channels, and most depending on the size of the mixer. And then basically what I'll do is I'll take the other the line outputs. Would that work? Let me see. Would that really work? I think it. Yes and no. Yes, it can take all the channels and divert them, but then you got to cross those channels over, because you know the physical mechanical demands on the speaker. You know, it can do a low frequency, maybe at but very low SPL level. So I'd have to use the extra outputs on the Storm processor for the probably the 2 extra outputs for left to right surround sub. So any of the subs in the sound chain can be crossed over, and then just divert the rest of the lows. But the room's not really big enough or designed really to put a certain sub or certain bass sub or driver that might be maybe say a 12-inch. I don't think I'll get a 15. Forget about an 18, because a typical 18 is usually used. There's no way that would fit in the room, because typically these subs would have to be located up on the side walls, and there's nowhere around this room where about even a JBL SB2 could tackle it, probably. It's got to be diverted elsewhere, maybe to the JBL TCBs. But it would sound too weird if one at the front is like the left channel, and the one at the back is the right channel for the stereo, like low frequency. It would just I don't think that'd be just I'm just trying to think. I suppose it's possible to fit, but crikey, that's revamping all the 8-inch bass mid drivers to a something that's well, it's got to fit. It's also got to fit. It's got to, even if the magnet thing on it, it's got to be able to fit. but it probably have just a little better, say, excursion. And its frequency range would probably be just a margin, a little bit better going down in the low, and no different going up in the, you know, because there's a passive crossover and it crosses over at 600 hertz, I think, then goes over to the mid-range driver, and then it crosses over again at, I think, not sure if it's 3 or 4 kilohertz over to the tweeter. So I'd need to, but that could be just more costly rather than just, you know, I've got two smaller other subs, but they're not identical, and they're square boxy, and they just wouldn't look right, and they would have to be mounted or screwed going into the ceiling joists so that, you know, you can literally hang on it, hold on to it, and it just wouldn't move. Might creak a little bit or so, but it just wouldn't move. It wouldn't come crashing down because it's just held up there. In sub in the ceiling. I don't know. I'll give that some design thought, but otherwise, I don't think it makes much difference, really. So maybe just get two other subs, place one at the back, little small ones, identical, one at the back over the left and one over the right in the corner. I think that'll work. Can't see no reason why, but it also depends how much low, because of room standing wave issue, and how much low is felt or heard or felt or heard or felt, depending on which comes first. Is it the chicken or the egg? At the back row, or even standing at the back, standing on the floor, and standing or seated in the front. It depends on the standing wave sort of thing. Otherwise, diverting those lows onto the regular subs for the LFE, it defeats the purpose, because the LFE should be playing totally only its discrete own sound for when it's supporting whatever it is, as and when. I think the two other subs I've got, little box things, that I don't think they're real subs, but they could play full range if they wanted to. But so I've got one in the back of the room, but it's not even connected. Crikey. It's only RCA phone, RCA. Any of the other ones, there's just plate amplifier with an RCA on. So it's just I've got to connect other leads on the processor, and that means I've got to go. It's not easy. I think with a Trinov, you can just go in, I think, as and when, and just edit anything in that programmed theater mode. So you can have theater mode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can just go into a Trinov at any time and just alter the channel or delete certain things. But on a stomaudio, you just can't do that. You got to completely start again. So I would have to I'd have to go in again and create a new theater mode, because I'd be using the other extra outputs. to just for the stereo or sub bass, just for the surrounds. I'll give that a thought. Because I did have in mind to using the other extra outputs for something else, but I'll give it a bit of thought, because I'm not really a huge fan on the Atmos thing these days, but I'll just give it a bit, because it'll also be useful for regular Dolby Stereo Matrix, or Dolby Stereo Discrete, Dolby Stereo Digital. It'd be useful for that, because that will get played a lot. I'll just give it some thought. Just give it a bit of thought. Look around the room, see what I can do. But I just don't know why. Understand why I don't. You know, I could get some other news. You know, they're going to have an XLR on them. Otherwise, it's no big deal just using the RCA, because as long as it's grounded very well, it's not a problem. It won't get any XLR is only a plus and minus lead connection, just so it reduces any sort of signal noise. But you're not going to hear hiss coming from a sub unless the damn thing's knackered and it's doing some sort of weird noise. And also there is option C. There's option C, because I've gone through option A and option B. There's option C. I get myself a passive box, because a sub, when it is a cinema, it's just a passive box. It's just connected to an amplifier that's basically got XLR or RCA or whatever it is on it. So I just need something that's passive, that's going to have a good excursion level and would handle. And then all I do is I'll just put another stereo amplifier in the rack, if I can find some space in the rack, and then just connect the XLR leads up on the Storm processor and set the crossover regions on the surrounds, and then any lows will go diverted into those subs. Problem solved, and cheaper. Because what's the logic in buying something like, well, I'll just randomly just pick some things right off the top of my head, like SVS sub. What's the logic in buying that? Those are some of those subs. Most people will be going for the ones that are nearly about $3.5 grand. Doesn't make any sense. Because when you think about your investment and what rubbish content Atmos movies you're going to put in, you're thinking, blimey, there's not a lot of low frequencies that are outputting, and you think, what a waste of money. You could have gone cheaper, another route around it, gone cheaper, and it wouldn't hurt that, or wouldn't hurt that much. Another one would be those overrated JTR speakers, you know, although they're a little bit, I think they are a little bit cheaper than an SBS, but still. And then you got KEF or maybe Rel. We're a little bit cheaper, and you know, from what I can see, I think they're okay. But what, just so I could do a video so I got 2 Rel subs in the back of the room, and they're just wired up to the surrounds, and just so I can divert the low frequencies so they sound omnidirectional in the room, and it won't bust the other speakers, because if I take it up the level too much, you know, I'm going to bust them. It's as simple as that. You push them beyond their technical tolerance levels, and then you break them. They can be, or can be designed to play low frequency, but only at a lower SPL level. Which, mind you, when you think about it, it will probably sound pretty realistic to a lot of the bullshit that you see on the screen today, and you think the sound should be pressing against your chest. I'm in the real world right now. The sound is muted, and I'm in the real world. Is the sound pressing? No, I can feel my voice in this region. If I put earplugs in, I would feel and hear a slightly different sound. That's why when you do a recording of your voice and you think, I don't like the sound of my voice, because you're missing a few other things. Because it sounds different, basically. It's your voice, but how it's played back and exhibited back to you, it's not in the same way. So, yeah, as long as you know that, then you know that. So those are my options. The subs that I got, even though the amplifiers might be a little iffy, but I haven't got identicals. I've got one in the hallway, one down behind me, but it's not in use. I haven't had it in use for probably a couple of years. So I'd have to find something, look around. I mean, that little passive sub that I got, it's only got a 12-inch driver in it. The excursion on it's not too bad, but I've not tried it. Again, I mean, try it again, locate it at the back of the room, just yeah, it's just fitting on. I've got, wow, hang on, I've got another Behringer. Is it an NX? I'm going to look because I can't remember. I think I've got a spare NX amplifier. Yeah, I've got 2 spare NX 3000 NX 3000 amplifiers, and 1 spare EPQ304, but they won't fit in the main audio amplifier rack. So I could maybe break my own rule and stick the other NX in the other the rack that's only reserved for the Laserdisc player and the VHS. I could put it in there because there's just enough little room for it to fit. And I've got I've got two 5-meter XLR cables. I don't know where I placed them. They're somewhere around. I think they're in here. I think they're down here just beside me, or they're out in the hallway in a bag that I haven't opened up yet. So I could put those in the system. And then get the wires and the cables all through, get them in the room, get them out into the kitchen, get in the milliamp. Then I'll just have to, the theatre mode that I'm using at the moment, I'll just have to delete it and then make it again. And then use the other remaining outputs on the processor just for those subs, just for the surround subs. But, I'll just have to see what I can see as a ideal that I can fit in the room. Don't know what to do with those other ones, but I think they're just going to have sort of like iffy problems, and they're not going to be matched. And it doesn't really if they're matched, because how the room is, you know, it's not like a cinema auditorium where it's going to have a very awkward back wall, and you think, well, this is pretty weird, and it's probably going to have some bass issues, because bass is a very strong signal and it will find a way, and it's going to make things a little bit awkward. And then you've got to alter whatever it is that's making it awkward so it gets, yeah, because most people just think they hear bass, 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 boom, 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 but they don't know what frequency they're listening to. I can hear some of the overheads, or so the way they're sounding sometimes, and I can tell some of the low frequencies now and then on the overheads are going down probably near 20 hertz, if not going down just a little low, maybe 18, maybe 17 hertz. I haven't exactly monitored this film on the Spectrum Lab to see how low it goes down, and it's only going to be occasional. It's not going to be all the time, you know. It's only going to be occasional. The stage channels and the rest of the surround channels and such, they're going to be doing it more constant rather than the overhead. They're only going to do it occasionally. But if you've got something that's only playing occasionally and you're not too sure, and most people are going to turn the levels up without even knowing, and then suddenly they're going to hear this god-awful crackle noise, and that's goodbye to one of their overhead speakers. That movie Moonfall, where it's got the space shuttle launch and other scenes in the movie, I monitored that, and that goes down into infrasonic frequency. So yeah, got to remember, at the end of the day, all the channels in the system, apart from the sub only goes from the lowest, probably 1 hertz, up to what I monitored the other day. I think it just about up to about 150 hertz, but it got weak in the signal. But it might vary between maybe a movie mix to between a movie mix. The full range channels, they're going from maybe 1 hertz up to about 20,000, if you can hear 20,000. Because 20,000, oh dear, you probably wouldn't. You probably wouldn't even hear it. You wouldn't even notice it. You can see it on the RTA, but you couldn't honestly say, I couldn't even honestly say, yeah, I can hear that. Unless it's one of these like Star Trek sci-fi like sine wave sound effects. And then usually I can hear a very high pitch. But I think my limit is about 16K. Once it gets to about 17 and up to about 20, I can't even hardly notice it. I can see it, but I can't hear it. Maybe I can hear it, but my ears, my brain would be able to hear it, but my ears, because our hearing evolution, it rolls off. And as you get a little bit older, I think it rolls off just a little bit, or there's things like little hairs inside the ear, and they pick up the signals. And if you expose your ears to stupid extreme SBL levels, what happens is these little hairs, they get damaged and they never grow back. That's it. They don't replenish. That's it. They're finished. It's like hair, grass growing in the, outside, and you mow it and it grows back. You mow it, it grows back. But the little hairs, no, they don't. Just got to be a little bit extra careful. And it's mostly when you're playing loud sound, it's usually high frequencies, mids and highs, and it's called high frequency hearing loss. But for my age, and if I can hear up to 16K still, that's not too bad. So even though I got tinnitus, no thanks to Sensor Round in 1979, but I might play things loud, and you think, how loud is that? I try to keep the dBA range to be a comfortable 85 on the peak. A DBC range, that could go a little bit, because if you were to monitor carefully the spectrum sound, or an RTA as well, both, so you got Spectrum Lab, true RTA, so you can see 2 different frequency responses, and you got your trusty, reliable analog SBL meter, and you're monitoring real world sound. If I was going out, I would check out a bus, because that gives a lot of vibration. It makes 20 sub-bass speakers probably shameful, because the amount of energy you get, it's a different kettle of fish, and the rest of the loudness. And if I were to go on one of those open top deck buses, you got all the wind blowing around, and that'd be another thing to monitor. And then I can compare it to something similar in a movie, and it's not going to be the same. Plus, it wouldn't have the wind blowing around. That's one element that's missing. You can't do that through turning up the sub bass and all that and getting port noise, or port air blow. It just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work, because the timing it takes for air to come out of port and then get across the room would take a few seconds. In the real world, it's boom. It's like me moving my hand, boom, and stopping it there. My hand's only a certain size, boom, and I feel air pressing against my face. If there was a candle across the room and I blew, it stopwatch, or I just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and it takes maybe 5 seconds or so until it reaches, and then the little flame flutters a little bit, and that's probably more better air that you can blow out a bloody sub bass speaker. Otherwise a sub bass will only blow air out the port at certain low frequencies. It's only designed, you go a little bit higher up, it's not going to do much. You just hear it, the noise mostly coming from the cone. You got to have a new breed of sub, total new breed or system, or, well, frankly, I think it'd be like one of those gimmicks like you go to the cinema. 4DX or something, and they got fans located around, and those things would turn on. So I don't know how they isolate the noise from the fans, unless they're playing the bloody film extra bloody loud, in which case I wouldn't even like it. And whatever you're feeling and all that, if it's some stupid overrated movie like that Twister #2 movie, which I've never seen and I don't care to ever watch it, I don't think it would be moving or circulating air around in the exact same way as nature does, because it kind of moves down circles like that, sometimes comes at that angle and it circulates. You can watch it outside. If the ground or the pavement is very dusty, you can see how it's moving and circulating and moving the dust around. So, it's like all this G-force they're putting in this movie. All this. So you can feel the inertia sometimes when, you know, in a vehicle, but it's not the same as an aircraft, because the thing's up there, you know, and it's got a thrust, it's got to keep itself up there, and so it's going to, you know, be a bit uncomfortable. So I can forget about trying to create a bloody G-force in this bring, because it wouldn't have a stupid SBL level coming out of a load of sub bass speakers. It's a totally different sort of thing. Because it's like you feel a G-force or something if you do a headstand on your, you know, and you feel this pressure. But you don't hear this stupid SBL level around it. You feel a pressure, and you can feel it in your ears. You can feel a pressure. You know, some people, well, I guess I'm like one of those some people. So I'm trying to look for a way, you know, but only for this room, if I can possibly fit it in. But there are some that's just, you know, forget about it. Can't do roller coaster and all that, you know. Otherwise, whoa, am I going to have my seating? So it moves in the room, and I've got something that's got a loop in it, and then suddenly, you know, you've got to put a harness on, and then it's going to take you upside down. What if it failed? My goodness. You know, and I'm upside down, and the bloody harness, it won't undo, and I'm stuck. I've got to call, you know, have I got my phone with me to call call emergency? Oh dear, can you imagine that? You know, they turn up and they see someone like, think, what the bloody hell is this? Oh dear. I don't know, this doesn't look real. This doesn't look real in the movie. Oh, it just looks, I don't know. I don't know about the colour and all that that's there. It looks a little bit too weird. It looks like it's got a filter on it, like a blue filter or something. And the colour of the movie just looks woke. I can't watch this anymore. No. But bloody hell, because it's Tom Cruise bloody running around again, for crying out loud. You didn't see him running around in the first Top Gun. Just flying mostly. Yeah, there's quite a few, you know, things that are just not you know, but it's just not right in this sound mix. To anyone else regular, they'll think, oh wow, it's great, but probably haven't even been near a mixing console on a computer or something, and know how these things are put down and what you can do with it. And of course you got it's going playing through a loudspeaker, and you got to think that need more channels, a lot, you know, just like in the Matrix, you know, where he says guns, lots of guns, and you get like too many guns that show up, and you think, Neo, we've only got a few bags here. We can only put so much of it into the bags. I know, but it'll work. You know, they've got a bloody selection of freaking guns that go down almost to infinity. Oh. So you got to think, so what do you need? Speakers. Lots of speakers. Oh. And it's a lot more than that, you know. It's a lot more than that. Because where we go, what we do and where we go to, and we make a sound in whatever, you know, like the room, I make a sound now. Like I said, I could put microphones all around the room and monitor the sound. So I've got microphones, they would have to be aligned or calibrated sort of specifically, so I can monitor the sound with a microphone close to me, other microphones placed around the room, and then I can look at the frequency response to see how it changes with real thing, not just playing something like an artificial soundtrack of a bloody movie soundtrack for a loudspeaker, but use the real thing itself, and then see what the frequency, and then I can once I've got some data there, I can take it from there and see what I can do or can't do, or see what is possible or impossible. I mean, people still talk about, I mean, there's one guy that, you know, he's got a Storm processor. He's got the ISR20, I think. And he goes on about the active Dirac, what do you call it, EQ thing. There's still people that still think it's a room treatment. It is not a room treatment. It is a loudspeaker frequency correction. It is not a room treatment. Room treatment is actually putting materials on the wall, on the ceiling, or hey, on the floor. and then you play a sound coming from, you know, first of all, you got to make sure the room is clear. You do a frequency sweep of it, and then you start putting this treatment on the walls, like these diffusers or whatever. And I mean a room that's not even absorbed, so it's going to make an echo or a pingy reverberant sound. You can do multitudes of tests to satisfy the curiosity, to see whether they're, you know, you're skeptical whether these things do anything, you know, based on, oh, it costs this much, and you think, well, blimey, I could probably make something like that out of wood, and cheaper. Well, if not, cardboard. And it would probably do the exact same thing, only cheaper. The only difference is, oh, if it's just brand, you know, it's not very attractive. You just spray paint it, and then it's like, wow. You know, you just saved yourself a bundle of money, just, you know, because, or, you know, it's like, use your hands. So if I got high frequency coming from the HF horn at the front, and I move my hand at this angle, and it's not like going around my ear like that, which is most people would do. It could be just that distance away and just angle it, and the sound will come down and reflect and then go diagonal to my ear. So it's bouncing and it's reflecting. Just plain skin and flesh and blood. I could do the same using this. I could do the same using that, and just place it at an angle, and I could hear the sound reflecting, and it's curved, and I would hear a sound reflecting and then go into my ear. If it's a bit more like, you know, a bit straight, you could even use paper. It won't work well on low frequencies, these devices that you put on the walls. They're going to do squat for low frequency. It's usually mid and high frequency. Otherwise you can put the bloody microphone up to it and it's just not going to do much on low frequency. There'll be a little change there because the material is a certain thickness, and the only difference is it would be a margin. But when you observe the mid and high frequency, you know it's doing a little bit of difference by reflecting and then getting the sound going to the ear. But really you want the sound and the position where you are, you want it literally to come from the screen channel, boom, to your because when you think of it, in the real world, someone is talking, okay, they're voicing their sound to your ears that you're listening, whether you care not to. You're hearing a direct sound, and depending on where it is, the environment, and there will be random, small, tiny millisecond reflections, but you're not going to notice those. You're not going to notice them. At least, of course, where I'm thinking, if I was having a conversation with someone and the location environment, I would hear a direct sound, and then if maybe I say raise your voice, do this, do that, and then I'll be listening and I'll hear these reflections. So like make a sound like this or that, and it would cause yeah, and then I'll pick up the reflection. I'll pick up the direct and then a reflection. Like all these planes in the movie, they're going through the valley or these mountains. Yeah, it's going to echo. Like you don't quite hear it much in this movie mix. It's like, and you wouldn't hear it when you're on the interior of the airplane, because the airplane's going to produce a noise, a cabin pressure noise, and you wouldn't hear anything on the outside. And if you start hearing bits, and you know, it just doesn't make sense. It's just a load of rubbish, random mixing. And I don't know why the Academy threw an Academy Award at it, really. If it's on the outside of the aircraft, you know, you've got the aircraft that's going to have a certain noise, and then you're going to have this reflection sound on the outside. Until you move away from the mountains and you're out over the ocean, it wouldn't echo because there's nothing there to echo. So I've heard a few sound flaws in this movie already where they release those missiles to drop them on that, what's it, in the movie. And they got this conk with an echo. I thought, that doesn't make any sense. Where the bloody hell is the echo? Doesn't make any sense. Wonder how long they were mixing this for, you know. I think there was all mixing and sound editorial going on all different regions around the world. I think pretty near around here. Or I think maybe, I'm not sure if it might be the Isle of Wight or something. Someone was, you know, there's all this collaboration sort of thing, but to the average person, it's like, okay. To me, it's, yeah, because it is a little bit technically sounding flawed. Could have been improved. Could have been. They could have threw all the psychoacoustic into it and made it sound like flipping heck. Wow. But no, it's just near. They rushed it. They just rushed it. Kind of curious if they use a test audience, you know, when they're doing this, just to see what the test audience can pick up, or whether they're paying them to do that sort of thing. But oh dear, I feel bloody dizzy. I know I think it's the bloody medication. I feel a little bit different sometime during the day, but it's hours later. It's hours. I think it's when I take the morning medication, I'm getting some side effect. What time is it? Oh, I've got about another half hour. I've got to take my afternoon medication. Bloody hell. I mean, what chapter am I playing in this movie? What chapter is it? Chapter 12. And you know what? For the duration time on this movie, the time duration, the chapters are not very good. It's really lousily chaptered. I don't know. When I look at that, when I look at all that, it just, I don't know. It looks kind of brownish, a kind of, I don't know what bloody colour that is, but bloody hell, it looks bloody awful. It hurts my eyes. Just can't stand those bloody camera angles so close to the aircraft. Like it's like, wow, it's a big bloody deal. At least, I don't know. At least these airplanes are not CGI. Well, I suppose somewhere they got to put some CGI there or such, but yeah, it's not like the first one where you see some part is real aircraft and the other ones, because they're models and they're filmed in an environment, and they look photorealistic. They look like the real thing. When they blow up and that, they look like the real thing. I mean, it's just a movie that was just like, it's like Blade Runner 2. Unnecessary. Because there's been other movies you could say, oh, a little bit similar to this, only it doesn't have Maverick plastered on the title, you know. It's just, there've been other things that have been similar. Oh, and there's these red colours. They're absolutely terrible. These red colours, that doesn't look realistic. It looks a bit weird. Looks a bit weird. It's, I think, since digital has come along, so I think there's probably maybe film bit digital and probably maybe film celluloid. I don't know. There's a certain about the red color. It just doesn't look right. I see it in a lot of photography today. Still camera pictures and such, and there's a red light on a vehicle, the tail lights and that, and at night time or so, and it's just got the tone color on it. It's totally wrong. It does it on my camera, and it's like, bloody hell, how do I get around that? And oh shoot, yeah, I've got to keep reminding. I've got to get the last bit of pictures taken on that camera. Oh, is that my cat opening the door? Oh no, that's just air pressure. Let's just check the window. Oh, that's open a little bit because it's a bit windy today. I'll close the window. I'll close the window. It's a bit windy today. Oh, now I've closed the window. No, I'm going to open the window again, but because I don't need the air conditioner because the temperature's cool today. It's pretty cool. Even though in the room it's 22 something. 22. 22.4. It's not too hot, so I'll just open the window just a little because it improves the infrasonic low frequency. Just open it there. I'll get extra 3-4 dB in the infrasonic low frequency. Yeah, you need Darth Vader chasing these goons in the bloody movie, chasing Maverick. You need Darth Vader and his TIE fighter. I have you now. There's a strong force with this one. That's all it needs. Maybe someone can make a video of that. I'll just watch it for well, I don't need to. I've just visualized it. I could visualize a TIE fighters flying around in this. Years ago, when you watch these things, you wouldn't even think that. It's because the internet and all these memes and all the stupidity over the years, people don't care for these things anymore, and they think, all right, we'll just take the piss out of it, or we'll make it humorous, you know. But now, yeah, I could just visualize something in there. God, that's some really bad overacting there, crying out loud. Also, not to mention, it seems a little bit propaganda. So I think they could have put quite a bit of it in this, a little bit more into this. Let's turn that on again. Yeah, some of it just doesn't make sense. Just play that again. That just doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense when it's cutting from exterior to interior. Yeah, that little bit there, where it's a little bit goes on the outside, then to the inside on the cockpit. Oh, that was weird. I had a bit of the sound cross-talking into the overhead because I'm playing the scene back and back and back, and yeah, it caused the decoding to take some of the sound from the front, and it went to the overhead. That's interesting. Because these glitches will happen on these processors. Because I seem to recall with the Dolby Digital years ago, I started a film up. I can't remember which one, and the center channel signal was coming out on the surround channel. I had to stop the movie. I had to, I think, turn the AVR off and turn it back on and restart the movie, and then it went back to where it was normal. So if you're reversing these things back and forth, you think, oh, action, act and play. You can kind of stir the signal up, and it gets outputting to one of the other speakers in the room. But if you replay it again, do it steady, then it goes back to where it should. So you can get it mixed up. I've never noticed it happening on DTS. So that's interesting, because that sound went to, or partly some of the dialogue, it was just for about a second and a half, and it went to the overhead number one. Interesting. You're exhausting all your chaffies, Maverick. Your goose is cooked. So I hear all those chaffies, flares going on them over the 1, 2, 3 speaker. Is there any information coming out on the below matrix? It's very low level. Yeah, but there's a bit of ambient sounds going down below on the matrix below surround, but it's nothing sort of like in the stereo mixing here. There's nothing like I can detect that's got a very strong presence of a negative polarity on a certain part of soundtrack element, and it will get steered. Otherwise, it's just a bit of difference of the rest of the soundtrack, and it's going down on the round down below, and then on the ceiling, the other channels are all turned off. Until I turn them on again. That sound there with the what's it? That's got a bit of a. I think that's actually got a bit of a kind of raw, kind of purpose distortion sound. Because I think it would be very, very loud and raw. But then how many people are hanging on the outside, on the underneath of a bloody airplane while it's flying through the bloody sky? Very few people, unless you're actually there to know what it actually sounds like. Well, you'd actually hear a load of air rushing in your ear canal mostly, because you're pushing through the wind. Unless, of course, you're facing the opposite direction and not the other direction. You know where the but yeah. It's a load of random effects. That looks like a bit of a copy scene or cliche from that bloody terrible James Bond movie. What was it? No Time to Listening to It, I think it was. It's terrible Atmos mix. Yeah, this bit here with the bloody. It's like a bit of a cliche out of that bloody Bond movie. Near the end of the movie where they're launching missiles from a ship and blow Bond up. Oh, thank goodness they got rid of that James Bond at the end of the day, because he was getting a little bit boring. How many years now? I hope they just don't do another one. Well, I'm not interested. Not interested in it. So I think everyone was like probably watching that in the cinema like, what the fuck did we just watch? It's like they probably got no clue how to write and get it, you know. So you basically, it just goes into another Bond movie with another actor playing it, running around. But they had to make it like, oh, that last one was just terrible, absolute terrible. Go to the other scene in the movie. Where's the other chapter? How come they got no sound there? Oh, it's probably on the surround channels. It's not on the overheads or anything. Wonder if I could, well, partly make that sound like it comes from below, because I can see the angle. I can see the angle. So it comes from a below angle, from below, but it doesn't, you know, it's not like leave it a few seconds longer so you hear the sound of the aircraft coming along the floor and then push up on screen. See? Yeah, the director and the producer and the sound, the editor and the sound mixer. Oh, they wasted a good opportunity there to have some good, decent below surround. But they haven't got a clue what below surround is. They just wasted a good opportunity there. That would have probably won the Academy Oscar award. Oh wow, airplane comes from below. Whoa, we haven't heard that before in a movie, now have we? There's not a whole lot going on in this scene. Bloody hell, we're in a bloody stupid bloody airplane. Oh, now there's some bloody music that gets mixed into the overhead. Oh God. But again, it's always typically in the middle in stereo. It's not like one of these, you know, whatever fucking mixes they do. But that's what they should. They should just keep it these speakers zoned in stereo and do the panning and not just have these stupid little bloody now and then. Oh, it's getting boring. Oh, got a few sound moving around there. Let's just play it again. But does it sound realistic? Let me see. I'll analyze that again. No, that doesn't make sense. I can see how that scene there is completely working in film editing. You hear these planes making a kind of circling effect, but one moment the camera is on the outside of the aircraft, and then the next it cuts to the interior, and there's no change in the timbre matching of the frequency. Otherwise, you just wouldn't hear it like that. Complete utter random load of sound mixing bullshit. What are they trying to fool? Who are these mixers trying to fool? Really? That didn't make any sense. You wouldn't hear it like that. The sound of the interior would be, those aircrafts would be, you wouldn't really hear them. There'd be too much cabin pressure noise inside that cockpit. See, camera there is on the outside of the aircraft. The aircraft now is circling around on the surrounds in all the speakers, and they're circling. And then it cuts to the interior of the cockpit, and you still hear the same sound. It would change completely. It would be, you wouldn't notice it. God, bloody hell, I just got to mute that shit and make myself a sandwich because, oh, really? What the fuck am I listening to? What the fuck am I watching? Oh, it's the rubbish end credits running on this rubbish. Terrible. Absolute dreadful. How much more dreadful can I look at this? How much more dreadful than this? Oh, there. That didn't make sense. Then. Hang on. That didn't make too much sense. That's another piece of load of rubbish. So you got those missiles. You hear the roaring sound of the missiles on the being utilized on the overheads, and the camera is on the interior of the aircraft, and then it cuts to the exterior on the overheads, the exterior, and they make the same timbre frequencies. There's no change in making it sound dense or muffled or whatever on the interior, and then cut. Terrible sound. Okay, now what were they smoking on that dubbing stage, really? That is just terrible, appalling, atrocious sound mixing. Anyone that likes this movie, really, honestly, I don't. I've had enough of it, and I'm stopping the video now because there's no more point fucking going on. It is a fucking dreadful fucking movie.